Good evening and welcome to LinkedIn Live with Sonia and Marjorie. Hey, Sonia.
Hey.
We're happy to be here to discuss once again a topic that we find interesting and that we believe is an essential part of leadership development. It is an essential part or useful tool to help those of you who may already be leaders or you're working on becoming leaders or improving as leaders to do so more effectively. For those of you who may not know, my name is Marjorie Wharton. I am a coach, a consultant, and a trainer. I focus on leadership development, change management, and strategy development. And my colleague is.
Sonia Lane Gartside, and I focus basically on the same things.
And Sonia and I get very excited when we are talking about leadership and about leadership development. We talk a lot about what it takes to be successful, and we see our focus as coaches and as trainers and consultants really on helping individuals and organizations to become better at what they are attempting to do. And so, our topic today, cultivating authentic leadership and what you need to know in order to do that, we thought or we see this as an essential tool in the kit of leaders that are growing and attempting to become even better in their roles. So, Sonia, if you had to, just to
Mhm.
get our conversation started, how would you define authentic leadership? What do you see it as? What comes to mind when you're thinking about authentic leadership?
Hmm. So I think authentic leadership is built on self awareness, knowing yourself. And so it's identifying who you are, what your values are, and how that guides what kind of leader you want to be known for. And, I like to say want to be known for because it's not just what kind of leader do you want to be. It has to come out of your intentions and come into your actions. So an authentic leader knows who they are, know what their value systems, their values are, and utilize those to guide what kind of leader they want to be known for. That's what I think of it.
Okay. And I agree with you because I agree that it has a lot to do with being authentic and really being unafraid, I think, to show who you really are. And it has a lot to do with knowing yourself well enough and being comfortable enough and really realizing that the alternative is unacceptable to you. And I think for a lot of us, we often find ourselves in situations that we're not comfortable doing that. And so, what I think this conversation would be useful for is to help a lot of those who may feel, well, you may say that, but you really don't understand the kind of environment that we are in, to really see that there is a reason why authenticity in leadership and in organizations matters. And really, if you think about it from an individual perspective, it takes a lot more energy for you as an individual to be constantly working at being or pretending to be what you're not than it would for you to just simply be yourself. And so part of our discussion will be to look at why it matters, why it is important, and then offer you some tips perhaps that'll help you to feel a little more comfortable first with finding and being able to express what
Mm-hmm.
your authentic leadership and leadership style is. So
Yes.
I thought what we would do with this discussion is really talk about why it matters. Why is it important, do you think, in organizations for people to even worry if leadership is authentic or not? As I see it, I think that if leadership is not authentic and you are my leader, but I can see clearly that you are not, or I don't feel that you're being yourself, or that what I'm seeing isn't really you, then as the person reporting to you, I also believe that that is how I have to act. And I think that that then sets up a culture and an environment where crops anyone who's willing to stand out and be different from being themselves. It stops people who have ideas from bringing them out because they may be afraid of looking like a fool or saying the wrong thing. And so I think it really creates a snowball effect when you don't feel that you can be honest and you can live in your own integrity.
Mm. And this is from a leadership point of view or from the employee point of view, right? Where,
I'm really thinking about it as an individual thing. So, any individual in the organization, if leaders aren't creating an environment that allows them to be authentic, then that is the result.
yes. And I think it's often because leaders themselves aren't authentic. So, how can you create an environment where people can be their authentic self when
Hmm.
you don't feel that you can be authentic?
Hmm.
Right? That you feel that you have to come in. And, I think Brené Brown says the opposite of belonging is fitting in. When
Mm.
you come in and figure out how can I fit in, how do I ascend the
Hmm.
career ladder, then
Hmm.
the status quo right now is that you must fit into a preconceived notion or box.
Hmm.
And so if you have a leader who got to that position, not being their authentic self, then they can't create an environment for you to be your authentic self.
Hmm.
And so it's important that you have a leader who understands the importance of authenticity. And the importance of authenticity is so that you can enjoy your work. There are lots of miserable people in the workplace, just spreading misery everywhere they are because they themselves are miserable. And
Hmm.
I think that if people learn to be, and that's one of the key things, that the first step when we're talking about leadership development, what kind of leader do you want to be known for? And one of the stages is, who are you? What are your value systems? Right? And then you have to ask yourself, is what I value important to this organization? Because if it is not, if you value honesty, customer focus, that we tell the customer the truth and transparency, if you value collaboration and cooperation over competition, but when you look around your organization, in order to get anywhere in this organization, you got to compete, and you got to compete hard, and there's no collaboration. Surface level, it looks like, but you got to gut people, when they're not looking. Then either one or two things happens. You either try to fit in, and then therefore you're not authentic, or you need to leave and find an organization that will value what you bring. And that takes courage. And that's a risk, a calculated
Hmm.
risk that you need to take. And so if you are in the former, where you realize it's not valued here and therefore I have to fit in, that's when you then start to create the environment where authenticity doesn't obtain.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So I think, okay, I'm agreeing with you, and I will go on to say
Mm-hmm.
that I think that in most workplaces, just as you said, that there really is that sense of fear that if I bring my true self to work, if they really know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
that they are not going to want me in this organization, or I am not going to be promoted, or I am not going to really get the opportunities that I want. And so, as someone who is developing as a leader, it says that you then have to spend a lot of time because your environment might not be supporting it. But you need to spend some time understanding who you are. You need to spend some time getting to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Sonia has mentioned who you want to be or what you want to be seen for in terms of your values and so on. But you also need to know who you are. Even if people aren't seeing it yet, you yourself need to know who you are. Because a big part of leadership development is going to be self development. And in order for you to be able to develop yourself, you want to go along a path that is going to bring you a sense of fulfillment. It might
Mhm.
not mean that you're happy all the time, but you get a sense of fulfillment at the end of the day that you have used your time in a way that has been worth it in your mind. And so in order to do that as an authentic leader, you need to know who you are and you need to know what it is you want to accomplish, and then you want to have the opportunities to work towards that. And so being authentic means, I believe, or I'll say it this way, if I was working with a coaching client, one of the first things I would say to them is you cannot be pretending to be something that you're not, and you cannot do that on a consistent basis. And so one of the big things at the heart of authenticity is your personality. There are a lot of people in organizations who go in trying to pretend to be someone that they're not. And if they don't know themselves well enough, they don't even realize that who they're pretending to be is not really them. The organization may say that it needs you to be a team player. And so you think that means you have to be friendly and funny and exciting and happy all the time. But you cannot do that on a consistent basis. And so the day that you go in and you're a little bit tired, you snap back, and people in the organization working with you are stunned and shocked. So I think one of the biggest things that you want to understand about yourself is who you are, what your personality really is like, and then figure out how to live in authenticity with that. It's not an excuse. You can't come in and be rude to people and say, well, this is who I am. But at least if you know who you are, then you will know how to be your true self and be respectful as well. At least
Yeah.
that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I do agree with that. That's why I say who are you? Know yourself, what your strengths, where your growth areas are, and who what do you want to be known for so that you can grow towards that.
Mm,
And if you're just coming in to fit in, I agree with you. That's why sometimes people aren't consistent.
mm,
And one of the best things about a leader is that you're reliable, predictable.
mm,
I know what to expect from you. And
mm,
that, when you say that about a leader, is because they know themselves, they understand where their strengths are, where their growth areas are, and you know I can rely on you. Well, sometimes
mm.
that's a bad leader too. You can almost predict
They're
who they
predictable.
are. Yeah,
Mm,
they're very predictably, they're going to be bad, consistently bad. But a
mm,
good leader is someone who you can predict, you can understand, either they will listen. And
mm,
most people, when you're not being authentic, two things: you're inconsistent, people don't know how you will react, and or secondly, you are filled with, where we say comparison is a thief of joy. You're constantly externally looking out and judging yourself versus some person, right? As opposed
mm,
to looking inward and saying, what do I need to feel, to feel, as you say, connected, and to really ensure that I'm doing the best work that it is. And unfortunately, employees are the collateral damage in leaders who don't know how to be authentic,
mm,
or who don't know how to operate, or who are stuck in, I know who I am and what I need, but nobody listens around here. And
mm.
this is where you say, well, there's not value there. So are you going to move?
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay. I'm more comfortable complaining about this organization than actually doing what is necessary for
In
me
order to, yeah.
in order for me to thrive. It's like, enough. It's enough misery to keep me complaining, but not enough for me to do something about it. Yeah.
Oh, you're laying on that nail.
Yes.
That's that Les Brown reference. For those of you
Reference.
who
Yeah.
may not know, the motivational speaker Les Brown has a reference in a video that he has. You can look for it. The story about a dog that's laying on a nail. Look it up. It's an excellent story that
It's
talks
an
a lot about
excellent.
that situation for a lot of us.
Yes. Oh, and we have a comment here. Definitely, it's also about what you stand for as an individual and being true to you. Yes,
Yes,
that is
yes.
authenticity right there. And so you have to figure out, well, what do I stand for? Because when we were growing up, they'll say, well, there's a saying that if you don't know where you're going, any road can get you there, right? If you
Mhm.
don't choose your friends, then you don't know who you're going to end up with. So you have to spend some time figuring out, well, who am I? Just as you're saying, thank you for that comment. What do I stand for? What are my values? What's important to me? And is it valued here? And if it's not valued here, again, you move. I've had clients who decide, like, customer experience, being truthful to the customer is very important. I don't like how this organization is operating, so I am moving,
Mhm.
right? And doing something about it. But it has to start with you doing that. And I don't think people do it enough. They spend too much
Mhm.
time looking outward at people. Oh, I want what you have. So how
Mhm.
do I operate to get what you have? And then they're miserable on the journey, or they arrive and get what it is, but they're still not happy. And then again, collateral damage, individuals around them, you're miserable, so you make people miserable.
Mhm. Okay. So our first comment, and I think we are agreeing that for for there to be authenticity, you need to know who you are, you need to know what you stand for.
Hmm.
Another reason why I think that authenticity in leadership is important is because it helps us to create engagement and it helps to create a sense of psychological safety. Because for us as human beings, we operate both on an emotional and a very rational level. And for a lot of us, that emotional means that we sense when people standing in front of us is not showing us their true and genuine self. And so you never feel really comfortable and you never feel that you can relax. And usually, a person who's putting a lot of energy into maintaining that facade, they often they generate, they project this sense of unease and a constant worry and a vigilance that comes over to people so that they never really feel completely comfortable and relaxed with them. And you will find that a person who is in a leadership role, who is doing that consistently, the people who are interacting with them may sense that on some level. Plus, if you're doing that a lot and you're worried about that all the time, there'll be times when you can't be concerned about the people who report to you because you're busy putting your energy into yourself and maintaining you.
Oh my gosh.
You
I
don't have the
find,
energy, don't have the energy to care about the issues of other people around you. And so it then leads to that kind of snowball effect where people don't feel comfortable, they don't feel cared for, and they don't feel that they can be themselves either because they may be judged because of that
yes.
unsure thing that they're
I
getting
just
from.
want to emphasize that because there are some people that you're interacting with and it's just fake. All that comes at you is, there's some people that you interact with and think, and you I've come away thinking it must take a lot of energy. I think there's a Beyonce song says it takes $1 billion to look this good, and you think, man, it must take a lot of energy to maintain this facade that you have going. It is clearly effort is being put to maintain this facade, and it's
Mhm.
clear as day. Now it could be that the person is just genuinely being themselves after 20 years of saying this is who I want to be. They finally are, but you can see the work behind it. And so no matter what they do, people find problems in what they're doing, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because there's this sense of you're not being real. So I want to,
Mhm.
like, 100% come up with that. Like, sometimes you want to say to people, is this who you really are? Because you don't have to pretend with me.
Mhm.
you know, you can
Yeah.
relax with me and be yourself. And I find, particularly in, like, in very much societies that are where classism runs, you
Mm.
know, rampant, that you get that a lot.
Mm. Okay, that's interesting because that tends to happen in a lot of societies. So it's probably a
It
lot of
does.
societies where a lot classism runs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so in the end, then what it means that when you're coming into an organization and an environment and you're a leader and you want your team to be successful, you need to be aware of yourself and aware then of how you're coming over. Because if you are someone who's putting all of that energy in, and you're thinking that you're hiding it really well, but you notice that the people around you never relax or they never feel comfortable, then chances are you're not hiding it as well as you think. And so it means that you, as the leader, then has to, yes, you need to work on yourself, but you also have to put in the effort and the energy to reach out to your reports.
But do
Reach
you
out.
think that people know, or they notice when that people aren't comfortable with them?
That's what, not all people. That's why I'm saying
Mm.
that is something that leaders need to start doing. You need to start paying attention to it.
Yeah. Read the room, because I don't think that when you're putting so much energy and putting forward a persona of who you want to be, that there's much bandwidth left over for
Hmm.
you to pick up from other people,
Hmm.
right? So
And
let
of,
me just,
sorry, I was going to say, and of course, there may even be some people who are not even aware of the fact that they have assumed a persona.
yes, you always think of, you always, you're always
I
coming from that
always
point
think
of
of
view.
those who are
I'm
unaware.
like, you're working so hard for this. Of course, you know that this is this is but you're right. People may misinterpret it as just growth. I'm growing and developing and becoming better, and don't realize that. Okay, well, at some point they do realize that they left their values at the far behind. That the person I am right now
Hmm.
are is not who I started wanting to be. Oh, see, yes. Here's a comment. Some leaders, I believe, may not even care how they come over. Oh, that's a whole different kettle. That's amplifying it even hard. So we are like, you're spending so much energy trying to maintain how that persona that is so important
Hmm.
to you. Your status is so important for you because it is caught up in status,
Hmm.
and that you're not even aware of how you're coming across and how you're landing. And now we get that they don't even care.
Hmm.
And that is true as well. That's why I laugh
And
because it's so
right.
truthful,
And
it's
I
funny.
think that those are the people. So that's an excellent point that we're getting from Kay, because those are the people really that we need to talk to. And we really are trying to have this conversation and build this awareness with. The individual who does not know, they're going to have to put some effort, and maybe they may wonder, well, why does this keep happening? What am I not doing right? But the individual who decides that I do know that this is what is happening and I do not care, then we are here to tell you that you're failing as a leader and your perspective is wrong.
Oh, I'm talking to the person as I say, those two people is who you don't want to be.
Yes.
So I'm not talking to them because I think that it works for them to a certain point. And
Hmm.
until they get to the point where they realize, oh my goodness, I have all of this and I'm still not happy, then you can
Hmm.
start to have that discussion. But if you are a leader and you really think it's so much effort coming to work on a daily basis and going against the grain, going against what I see as needed and necessary, then you don't want to become a person who has to adopt a persona. In America, we talk about putting on a mask to come to work. With the racial perspective, you have to code switch. You have to do things opposite just for survival. And again, that's a reason why the research shows that there's so many health consequences to having to do that, to
Hmm.
not being your authentic self when you come to work. You spend so much time at work
Hmm.
that if you cannot be your authentic self, it's not going to help you. I just saw research that shows in America, African American women are like the number one people who are starting new businesses and being entrepreneurs. And there's a reason. One of the reasons is clearly because the corporate world, you have to conform a lot. People feel that way. That's why diversity, equity, and inclusion is so important, because people often think I have to come and conform when we're not respectful of diversity, of differences. And
Hmm.
so you have to really invest in yourself to be truly authentic and be able to navigate whatever system you're in, as you were
Okay.
saying earlier. Yeah.
All right. So then well, that point we were just talking about, really to wrap it up, we are saying that you want to, as a leader, ensure that you're practicing authenticity because it helps you to create an environment that is more enabling. It helps you to build that psychological safety, and it helps you to get employees to be more engaged. And then, yes, we want to avoid becoming individuals who get to the point where we don't care, or we want to make sure that we don't remain someone who's so unaware if it is that we are
Mhm.
assuming a mask.
Yes, and you want to be someone who is not so caught up with comparing yourself. Like when people talk about imposter syndrome, I often like to say, you're not be, you gotta go there knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. Because if you don't know who you are and what role you play to ensure that whatever team you're working with is successful, then you will be subject to imposter syndrome. Because what you will do is look outside and judge yourself against who you're dealing with, rather than coming with a secure knowledge because you've done the work on you've done the work to investigate that, and so you come and you know what you contribute, and so therefore mentally you're not as troubled. And
Mhm.
I'm feeling like I'm going to be caught out at any moment. People are going to realize that I am not as smart as they think I am, or I have to be caught up trying to prove to people how smart I am. Because when
Yeah.
you really know who you are and what you bring to the table, you don't get involved in those games.
Okay. So let us now look at or start to think about what would you say are three things that you would suggest to a leader who wants to become more authentic in their leadership? And I'll start, and I will say
Mhm.
that the first one is self awareness. And when I say self awareness, I'm talking about you need to know what your strengths are, you need to know what your weaknesses are, you need to know what your areas for improvement are. And knowing those things help you as you grow and develop as a leader. And it is part of your authenticity when you can say, well, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. This is what I can get improvement in. This is what I have to manage around. Because that is you being authentic and showing some sense of vulnerability to individuals around you. Not that you're perfect, not that you know all the answers, not that you're capable of doing everything, but these are the things that you're good at. This you're not. This you're going to improve in. That you're going to have to manage around. So I would say the first bit of advice I would give to anyone is get to know yourself well enough that you know those things about yourself.
Mhm. Yes, I will concur. It's hard to be authentic if you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
You don't know who you are. Or, well, let me just, well, probably. So, yes, thank you. Self introspection. It's really hard not to have that to know. But some people do, and that's why they're inconsistent. Some days they're up, some days they're down, depending on how I feel. So,
Mhm.
authenticity isn't how you feel. Authenticity doesn't mean that you get to be like, this is just who I am, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And you alluded to
Mhm.
this earlier, Marjorie. It doesn't mean being cruel or mean or foisting yourself onto the world and saying, this is just who I am, take me or leave me. No. it is it is that introspection to know how to navigate the world with empathy, right? I know who I am, so therefore um, I can figure out what breaks me, what triggers me, and I
Mhm.
can deal with that internally and address it before, so it's that emotional intelligence, which is, you're self aware so you can self manage. You can manage yourself in stressful situations, and you can respond to people rather than react to people and, with outbursts. And then, of course, then you can read the room and have that social awareness so that you can then build relationships. So you know when to say, hey, this is the way I prefer, because you talked about personality before. This is
Mhm.
the way I prefer it. Can we work around this? And you also know, okay, this is the way I prefer it, but for us to work together, how can I build a relationship with you? How can I adjust? How can I use my empathy? So I will just add on and reinforce what you say. It's that self-awareness without you utilizing it to be, I am rigid in
Yeah.
how I approach and come through situations. Yeah.
Okay. So that's your first point?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my second point then is personal mastery. And some of you may already know this, but we talk a lot about personal mastery in coaching and in training in self-development and leadership development. And personal mastery is built on the concept, yes, you know who you are, but you are honest about who you are. So you're honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, and you are willing to improve and to consistently strive to be better, and strive to be better so that you can be more effective in your role and effective in mastering your environment. So bringing things like your creativity to the table, getting to what does it take in order for you to be effective as a leader? What does it take in order for you to be a better people person? Once you know that, you make a commitment to then becoming a better version of yourself. And so that does require flexibility. It requires openness to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I would mention a tool. It kept popping into my head, so I will say it. There is the Johari window. Some of you may have heard of it, and some of you may not have. It's Johari. So the
Mm-hmm.
Johari window is a tool that helps us to understand ourselves and to consider, what do I know about myself that everybody else knows? What is it that some people may know about me that I don't even realize that I have as something that I do, either in a good way or a bad way? Then what is it about myself that I'm working to keep hidden that other people don't know, but perhaps I would be stronger if I could share it and if I was willing to be more vulnerable to let it be known? And then in the fourth quadrant of that, because it is laid out as a box, a matrix, it has four squares. The fourth area of the Johari window is that those things about yourself that you don't know. And why we talk a lot about it in coaching, and when we talk about personal mastery and we talk about personal development, is because that window where there are things that you do not know about yourself is an area for the greatest sense of development. It is the area that if you spend some time, as the comment we got earlier mentioned, in self introspection, if you spend some time analyzing and wondering, well, why is it that I'm doing this? Why is it I feel this way when I'm in this situation? Why do I respond that way when things like this happens? It
Mm-hmm.
gives you information about yourself that you can use as a tool so that you can become stronger, and you're willing to be more open, and you're willing to show and share more of yourself with others. And so consider that you want to give yourself the grace, you want to give yourself the opportunity for growth, and spend some time in doing that kind of introspection and deep reflection about why you are the way you are, why you respond the way you do, why you feel the way you do. And remember that emotions are often a cue to things that are happening within you. So you have an emotion, you're not sure why you have it, it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Spend some time thinking about, why does it happen when you are in that situation? So that's my second one, personal mastery.
I do like that. And I do agree with that, especially that window of what are you hiding that you think,
Mm,
what are you spending a lot of energy restraining or hiding?
mhm,
So my second tip is active listening is very important, and so it
mm,
has two prongs. The first one is what do you take a lot of energy to hide?
mhm,
Either because it can come over as a week, it can come off as something, like Oprah Winfrey had once said, I learned early that every whisper from me is seen as a shout. So you're somebody like me, I'm a direct communicator, and I know that in one-on-one conversations, for some people I can be intimidating,
mm,
right? And if I want information from people, then I rein in my style a little bit to give you space so that I can hear from you, so that it is like, so if I look and I say, oh, I learned to say, tell me more about that, as to, well, why did you do that? Because
mm.
the why did you do that, immediately people think,
Yeah.
oh, Well,
Anytime it's a
yeah,
voice.
right. Yeah. So what do
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time reining in or hiding? Because as you said, that takes a lot of energy from you and it can be draining and tiring.
Mm-hmm.
And it can make you inconsistent because there's only so much before the straw that breaks the camel's back. And then you really want to know, well, what is it about you that you don't know, as you were saying. And so that's where I say the active listening is really, really important. And when I say active listening, is listening to people's off the cuff remarks about you, the so-called jokes they tell about you, where somebody says something and you go and they say, oh, I was just kidding. Those are things that I think have a lot of information in it that tells you how you are perceived, not necessarily. And we know that there what you intend and what you put out isn't necessarily how it's always how it lands on people, the impact that you have on people. And so that's really important for your authenticity, so that you know how to navigate. When you see a micro expression, what it could possibly be, instead of wandering around the world not really aware of your impact. And then it can come across like you don't care, but really you're just clueless because you don't listen. You don't actively listen, which is, really pay attention to the emotions that are in the room. Pay attention to, as I say, what people say off the cuff. Pay attention to when people are not feeling open enough with you, and that requires that you be intentional. Yeah. So it does
Yes.
go. I think we're aligning here. As usual,
As
we well,
usual.
truth is parallel. So that's it.
Yes. And I'm here looking to just type up the spelling. So for those who want to know, Johari window is Johari window. And you've heard Sonia also give some information as to why it's a useful tool. So I suggest that you look it up. You can look for it online, maybe as a reading if you prefer to read, or you can look for a video on YouTube to talk about it. Or you can
Mhm.
get in touch with us. We can talk to you about it as well.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that I have is that you need to, if you're going to be a leader who wants to create authenticity and authentic leadership, then you need to ensure that there's an organizational culture that supports authenticity. And why do I say it like that? To make sure there's an organizational culture, because
Mm.
you need an enabling environment that encourages authenticity in order for it to not just be the one off thing. That you have one person who's really strong and really bold, and so they are themselves, and everybody else is cowering and they're in the corner whispering and going, I don't know how she could or he could say things like that and get away with that, if it was me. So you don't want to create that. Instead, you want to encourage everybody to be authentic, because if people feel comfortable being themselves, that's when you get crazy ideas. Crazy ideas in an organization means that you have the potential to find a way to improve problems that you have. You improve your problem solving. Crazy
Mhm.
ideas mean that innovation can happen. Crazy ideas means that people don't feel that if they see that there's a something about to fall off a cliff, or somebody's about to fall off the cliff, they go, well, they said not to say anything, so shh. And they see you walk clean off the cliff and go, whoops, maybe we should put a sign there that says careful cliff. So
That's malicious compliance, right? But
understood. But there are a lot of people in organizations who, to be the one to say, hang on, there's a cliff there, you're going to be pummeled. You're going to be made to feel like you were an idiot for having pointed out to the person who's going over the cliff that they're going over the cliff. And so
Mhm.
there are people who then say nothing. And what we want is an environment that encourages, especially as we have more and more young people coming into the workforce, who they have energy, they have ideas, but they really don't always know how to channel them to help the organization.
Mhm.
If you can create an environment that is encouraging, to allow people to be their authentic selves and not just want to pummel everyone into this preconceived mold of what a good
Mhm.
employee should be, then we would find we would get more productivity from people. People would be able to put forward their ideas and feel a little more comfortable doing it. People would be more committed, and you would have a higher sense of satisfaction within organizations.
Mhm.
So, we talk about culture all the time, but we don't think about it with regards to this. So, that's why I'm mentioning it. If you want authenticity, if you want people to be comfortable, if you want people to be highly productive, you need to give them the space to be as authentic and to be them through their true selves when they are at work. I can't believe I'm stumbling over my tongue. Their true selves when they are at work.
Yeah, well, we know what you mean. Yeah, that is true. That's psychological safety, and I think the four stages of psychological safety, we will call that the contributor safety, where you feel confident to speak up, speak
Mhm,
your ideas, and really contribute. Then you get to that challenger safety, where you see something, you say something.
mhm,
Right. Yeah. I 100% agree with that in terms of that's a benefit of authenticity, because research shows that people come to work and spend a lot of energy and time hiding things from about themselves,
mhm,
trying to fit in. And what we have in organizations today, is particularly in this dynamic market, is people are always setting these goals and then they don't reach them and they wonder why. Why are we not getting where we're supposed to go? Why are we so inefficient? Why are we not? Because people don't have much energy left over for your work. They're, they're spending all that energy masking and trying to fit in and trying to avoid biases being used against them, or unconscious
mhm,
biases being used against them. And so they don't have time to think up those ideas, or, and as you say, and even if they do think them up, they're thinking I might lose status, I might be pummeled,
mhm,
as you indicating, because people will label it crazy, and therefore pull you down, as in, and I love that you made that point, that for young people particularly who have lots of ideas, they may not be able to package them in a way that in which you can clearly see the direct link between the idea and how it benefits the organizations. And as leaders, we have to encourage that by saying to them, okay, yes, hear that. Now go back and think about how it relates to where we are right now. Because if I am in America and you're saying I have this wonderful idea that would get you, and it's fabulous. I saw it in China and this is what they did. And I say to you, okay, that's great, but we have two different cultures. How do we relate? How can we transpose that here? How do we make it here given the culture that we have? You have to challenge them to do that rather than just say, bad idea, it won't work here.
mhm,
That won't work here. You have to say, okay, yeah, great. So let me help you channel it to really what is needed to be useful. You need to figure out how it will translate into this culture and
mhm,
go work that more. So I'm completely agreeing with you. And I think my final point would be that how do you use your authenticity? I think that I love that you said to have an organizational culture that supports that. And I think that that requires the CEO to prioritize authenticity, HR to create systems to help prioritize authenticity. However, I don't think that people understand the direct link about authenticity and how it can improve your bottom line. So I
mhm,
think that you should utilize your authenticity to be very clear to people how to best work with you. This is how you get the best from me when I have X and Y and Z. And that's the beauty of knowing who you are. You are clear on where you are best placed, how to
mhm,
get the best use of my skill sets. You are clear on when to ask for help early
Mm-hmm.
You rarely bite off more than you can chew, because you know, okay, this is going to be complex for me, given what this is a growth area. And so I need to make this, much more approachable. I need to upgrade my skills. I need to ask for help. And so you are way more effective at really getting things done when you are operating from authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Your life just becomes easier. And all it takes is, instead of just fighting against the stream, you're going in, what do they, it's like, just take a little breather on the side and figure out who I am, what do I need, and then go back into the organization and say, okay, now how can I rearrange and organize and navigate what's around me and what's within my control,
Mm-hmm.
and then empower myself to do that. So you come into organizations and you feel less like you have no control, you have no agency, and then you start to shift that frame to understand that, let me look for opportunities where I can practice agency and I can empower myself and I can make things happen. And then you become less just, I complain, I'm frustrated, you have days like those, but then you get back on and you're more energized. And your work life, even in the midst of a unsupportive organization, could be good for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point. I agree with all of that. And I have one additional one. I want to say that, yes, I know
You
it's
always
not
have an
one.
extra.
It's not one.
I love
Uh,
it.
I see authenticity as key to building trust. And I mentioned it separately as a separate point because one of the things, and this really is based on the theory and the research that was done by Stephen M.R. Covey,
Hmm.
who is the son of the Stephen Covey that we all hear about, of Covey leadership and Covey and so on. So the book that he's written is called The Speed of Trust. And
Hmm.
one of the things that they found in doing their research is, in order for a leader to really effect change in an organization and really get the most out of their people, they need to try to earn the trust of the employees as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
And one of the things that they talk about is really that personal, building that trust, where you are showing the individual who you are, what you're capable of, you're building credibility. That's one of the C's. There are four C's. One of them is credibility, and that is the personal credibility. So letting people know who you are builds trust, and building trust in turn allows people to then believe in you as a leader. Once
Hmm.
your followers believe in you as a leader, they are more willing to follow you. And if you are a leader, and we know leadership is defined as you're setting that direction and you're trying to influence people to follow you. If people are willing to believe in you as a leader, they are more likely to follow you when you say to them, well, we're trying to accomplish this, and this is the effort that we're going to need, and we want you to be on board with this. And in lots of organizations now, as this shift that we are seeing is coming into the workplace, where people are feeling, well, I want to say more and more, but maybe I shouldn't say more and more. But more people are expressing the fact that they are feeling marginalized, that they're upset, they're annoyed. And there are a lot of people who do not feel like they're willing to accept it anymore. Organizations' leaders need to get better at engaging with people, earning their trust, and convincing them that the effort they're putting out is genuinely worth it. And if you can do that, if you can connect with people and you can convince them that the effort they're putting out is actually worth it, and getting on board to help you to engage with you in order to achieve an organizational vision is a good thing, you would find that you will be happier. The people you're leading would be happier and more satisfied with the organization and the environment. And in turn, you'll be able to achieve more of the goals that you want. So I will say that focusing on building trust is key, and it is a key benefit of you deciding to practice authentic leadership.
Yeah. I agree. Don't wait for trust to break down to then deal with it, which is generally how people usually work out when it's like, uh-oh, trust is broken down here. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Build that trust because it really does enable people. People give discretionary effort when they have that. You know, when they
Mm,
feel people care, I can trust
yes.
you, you're reliable, and I know who you are. And you know, they always, what's that saying, that at least if somebody's gonna hate you, let them hate you for who you are and not who you pretend to be.
Ooh,
You
that
know?
must be more painful. People are hating you for who you pretend to be, putting out all that effort, and you're still not achieving the
And not
result that you wanted.
exactly. It is being authentic, and I think it's the systems, it's the leadership who need to create that path to say being here, authenticity is important, and with the understanding that when you show your authentic self, they may not like you where you are,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And that's okay because someplace else, you know, someone there's a space for you. You know, I always like to say, do not be an eagle among ducks. Ducks look into water, you look into the sky. And
Mm,
so in there, they will say you're the weird one. You're always doing it wrong. You're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong location, and you're spending so much energy trying to fit in. Imagine an eagle trying to be a duck, or a duck trying to be an eagle, right? It, there's a tribe out there for you. Find them. There's an organization out there that is not going to be like your stomach isn't going to hurt when you're driving in on Monday morning or you're logging on. There's an organization out there for you. Find
mm,
it.
yeah. And I just want to say, because I know you tell me I say this all the time, just remember that the reason why we have the story of the ugly duckling was the ugly duckling did not know it was a swan.
Mm-hmm.
So you do, it is true, you don't want to be an eagle among ducklings, but if you were raised with ducklings, you might not know you're an eagle.
Mm-hmm.
And the
That's
only
it.
way that the swan knew it was a swan, the ugly duckling knew it was a swan, was when it could see the reflection, when it looked forward and saw its own reflection in the mirror and it realized that it looked just like those swans that it was admiring. So sometimes for you as individuals, to build on Sonia's point, the only way you're going to know if you're an eagle among ducklings is you need to get some reflection coming back at you. So you need to put yourself out there, get that feedback, get that interest, listen, as Sonia said, to what people are saying, and to realize what you're capable of and to own it. Don't you say you're going to keep your head down and try to fit in just because you want to fit in, but it is difficult to fit in when you're born to stand out.
Yes, yes, yes. And sometimes people look at you and see your greatness and want to clip it. And
Yeah,
because you didn't take the time to invest in yourself, then you take their worth. When people are giving you feedback, you just don't accept it. You, which is another point for authenticity. You have to analyze it, and what you can use, keep, and what you don't need to use, just let go. Yeah.
yeah.
But that's a great story. I forgot about the ugly duckling stories.
And so, as we are wrapping up, what would be your closing comment?
I my closing comment would be there is nothing as great as knowing who you are, feeling and that gives you so much confidence, and it really makes the weight on you lighter.
Okay.
Yeah, you could fly when you have authenticity because you know what's for you, what's not for you, how to navigate, when to ask for help. You fly. So if you are somewhere right now and you feel stuck, you feel that you're not getting what you need or what you deserve, then try really focusing on knowing who you are and being authentic is a place where you can start because you will get a boost when you start to engage in authentic leadership for yourself and others.
Absolutely. And my closing comment would be yes, ditto. I agree with what Sonia has said. And I would add it is easier to be yourself, it is more fun to be yourself, even
Mhm.
though it may not feel that way at first. But if you are someone I a little story. It'll be a quick one. There was a time in my life where I used to go around being nice because, unfortunately, as someone who was blessed with resting bitch face, I had to go out and put extra energy into conveying that I am approachable and nice. And the day that I decided to stop doing that and just be me, it became easier and it stopped being a chore to interact with people. Now, there may be many more of you out there who have stories like that. And so you may already have a sense of what we're talking about the value of authentic leadership. Know first that it is better for you to be yourself. And as a leader, you will be most successful if you can show your direct reports who you are and that you are respectful of them and that it is okay then for them to show you who they are and together that you will work to achieve the goals that you have for yourselves and for the organization.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
it's more
think
fun. I love that because it is.
it is more fun. Yeah, so you can be as weird as you want to be and just be you. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes all types, right?
Yeah. Diversity is the norm. It's
That's true.
important.
And actually, yeah, that is really the whole point
We
of
embrace
diversity.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this discussion today has been about authenticity and about authentic leadership and about knowing yourself, because we believe that for you to be most successful as a leader, for you to be most successful as you go forward and developing and achieving what you want for yourself, whether professionally or in your personal life, you want to do it in a way that feels comfortable, in a way that brings you joy, and in a way that brings you fulfillment. And in our opinion, a big way of doing that is to make sure that you're able to do it by living in authenticity. And so that has been our discussion today. It has been a pleasure as always, Miss
Yeah.
Sonia.
Yes, it is. See you next month.
See you next month when we will come again. It should be in about a month or so, about 4 weeks or so, where we will be discussing with you another topic that we know from our experience will be useful to you as you continue your leadership development journey. Remember, leadership development is a journey, it is about self development. It's never a one and done. You have to keep working at it, and you need tools and techniques to do it. There's no one size fits all, and you can find a leadership style that works best for you. So, thank you very much for joining us and have yourselves a very good evening. Enjoy the journey. Okay, bye.
Bye.